Most people assume that when someone says they feel different from everyone around them, it's just a phase. Maybe they're overthinking. Maybe they're trying to be unique. Maybe they just haven't found their group yet. But if you listen carefully when people describe that feeling, something more interesting starts to appear. Because sometimes, feeling different isn't really about being separate from others at all. And once you start noticing the patterns behind it, you begin to realize it might reveal something deeper about how certain minds experience the world. You might have seen this before. Someone sitting quietly in a group conversation, listening more than talking. They notice small changes in people's tone, the way someone pauses before answering, the subtle tension in a room that most people seem to ignore. And while everyone else moves on, that moment stays in their mind a little longer. If you're someone who tends to notice these things, you've probably realized that human behavior often says more than people intend to reveal. Some people naturally observe life this way, almost without trying, and that's where the psychology behind feeling different starts to unfold. For some people, the feeling comes from heightened self-awareness. They spend a lot of time reflecting on their own thoughts, reactions, and emotions. While others move through experiences quickly, they pause and analyze what something meant. For others, it's about depth of processing. Conversations that stay on the surface can feel strangely empty because their mind is already exploring the meaning behind what's being said. Then there are people who quietly read social dynamics. They notice contradictions between what people say and what they feel. And once you start noticing that, it becomes difficult to ignore. But something interesting tends to happen next. Over time, this deeper awareness can create a strange experience. You understand people very well, yet you still feel slightly out of sync with them. You might have noticed this in simple moments, when everyone laughs at something that feels forced, when a conversation shifts and you're the only one who senses the discomfort underneath, when you see the emotional pattern behind someone's behavior before anyone else does. And this is where the story usually gets misunderstood. Most people assume feeling different means someone struggles to fit in socially. But the part many people miss is that it can also come from seeing social patterns too clearly. When your mind constantly analyzes emotions, motivations, and subtle signals, the social world starts to look a little different than it does for most people. If you've ever noticed yourself feeling this way, there's usually a deeper reason behind it. Because the truth is, people who process the world more deeply often experience a gap between observation and participation. They see layers in conversations that others move past without noticing, and over time, that can create the quiet sense of standing slightly outside the moment. But the deeper meaning behind this feeling isn't isolation. Very often, it's awareness. Human beings naturally seek belonging. We want to feel understood, connected, and seen by the people around us. But when someone spends more time observing human behavior than simply reacting to it, their experience of belonging can become more complicated. Not worse, just different. And once someone begins to recognize this pattern in themselves, something subtle starts to change. They stop assuming that feeling different means something is wrong. Instead, it becomes a sign of how their mind engages with the world. So maybe the real question isn't why some people feel different from everyone around them, but whether that feeling is actually pointing to a different way of seeing human nature altogether. And once you start noticing that possibility, you begin to see it in places you never expected. Maybe you've already recognized it in someone, or maybe, quietly, you've recognized it in yourself.